Hello YouTube! Today in the Naughty Librarian I am doing my end of May wrap-up. In the second half of May I managed to read an additional 6 books, so that gets me up to 14 books this month. May has been my best reading month this year so far. Oh my goodness. The first half of May was great, the second half of May... well, let's just say it wasn't quite as good as the first half, but not terrible. So let's just get into the books I did read. I'm pretty excited to do some book reviewing. Let's go. First category is fantasy, and I read 3 of them. I read His Majesty's Dragon by Naomi Novik. The basic plot here is what if the Napoleonic Wars had dragons? And it kind of just follows this dragon named Tahereh and his dragon rider Will, and how they come to become kind of best friends. And then they fight the French in battles because it's the Napoleonic War, so it's England versus France. And instead of fighting on the ground or in boats, they're fighting with dragons in the sky. So it's a very different London in England and the Europe. So there's dragons, and there's dragons all over the world. There's many different breeds of dragons, so it's definitely kind of alternate history. And overall, I think I gave this like 4 stars because it was good. It's not necessarily my exact taste, but I did enjoy it. It's very kind of dry British humor, so if you like that, I think you're really gonna get into this. Personally, I want a little bit more spice in my humor, but this one, it is really funny though. I want to say in advance that the dragons talk. All of the dragons talk, like to people. It's not like in mind telepathy, talking to only their rider. No, they can like talk and have conversations, and they read books, and they're like, they're like dragons. They're like another intelligent species with humans. So it's really interesting to see like dragons just have conversations with people. And you know, Tahereh was a baby in the beginning of the book. He hatches, and then now he's growing up and with Will, and they're best friends, and you know, Will has to teach him about the world, and it's really cute seeing their friendship grow. I really like just seeing like friendship here. It's like between Will and the dragon and their friendship and how it develops over time. It's almost kind of like a father-son relationship almost, but more like a found family relationship than actual father and son. And you know what? I'm just gonna say it. This might sound weird, but this gave me like a dash of Babe vibes. You know, like the movie Babe? But like if Babe had dragons in it. Like that's how this book made me feel a little bit. Like the farmer and the pig is like, yes, that'll do, pig. But in this one, it's like the captain and the dragon is like, oh, that'll do, dragon. It's like that kind of humor. But yes, if you do like alternate history, you like dragons, you like kind of dry British humor, you will totally love this book. It is really well written, and I did enjoy it overall. I think it would make like an excellent like streaming series. I don't know if I'd put it on like network TV, but it would make a good streaming series. I think it'd be fun if they did it. Like maybe if BBC did a miniseries, I think it'd be dope. But I thought it was pretty good. Definitely fun. It has lots of dragon action, dragon battles. And I'm not necessarily sure if I'm going to continue on with this series just because it wasn't super exciting. Like, I'll be real, like this takes a long time to get going and have anything exciting happen. This is a lot of world building and boring kind of bureaucracy of the military for a lot of it. You want like dragon battles all the time, but there's only a few dragon battles. But it is really fun, and I did enjoy it. It's got like Babe with dragon vibes, so it was really fun, and I liked it, but I didn't love it. I also read Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. I needed to read this. I read City of Brass in the first half of the month and absolutely loved it, so like I couldn't wait. I had to go into book 2, and I'm so glad I did. It's so good. It's so good. I gave it 5 stars. It's so good. It's funny because similar to His Majesty's Dragon, for a lot of this book, like nothing is happening. It's very slow paced, but the character development is so expertly done and compelling that I don't mind nothing is happening. Like, I actually was still fully into the story the entire time, even though literally nothing's happening. It has a big climactic end, and there's a lot of little, like, gasp bombshells throughout the story, because a lot of new characters get introduced that you're just like, what? And so that's cool, but mostly the only thing happening is, like, scheming or plotting or angst for a lot of the book until you get to the end when all of the shit goes down. So overall, like, it's very slow paced, but it's so expertly written that I don't mind. Like, I still enjoyed it a lot. This picks up the story after City of Brass. However, there is a time jump, so this is about 5 years later. So for 5 years, we don't know what happened. I'm assuming more of the nothing that's going on for most of this book. But, so yeah, there's 5 years later and how all the characters ended the first book, and we're just kind of pulling back into their lives and seeing how they've adjusted. And a lot of the characters, like, you would assume certain things were going to be the case, and they're not. So it doesn't make a lot of obvious character decisions here, which is really interesting because, okay, slight spoiler, Nari was betrothed to Muntadir at the end of the first book, and they don't even know each other, they don't like each other, they don't want to be married to each other, but they got to for peace. And this is 5 years later after that marriage has taken place. Like, it would be obvious to have them hate each other and just be spiteful, but it's actually the opposite, where they do kind of genuinely care about each other. Like, it's kind of a shitty marriage, but they're at least friends, you know? So it's like a complete opposite take that you were expecting. So I do like that quite a bit. Also, since there's not a lot of action here, we just have to talk about character development, and I really like the complexity that she gives the characters, because no character in this series is just like one thing. They're always multiple things. No one's really necessarily right or wrong. Well, no, that's a lie. There's some people in here who are definitely wrong and the villains, but the way that they see the story, of course, they're the hero of the story. So everyone has like this duality to them. One of the central relationships in the story is between the two brothers, so Muntadir and Alizad. It's like one of the main sources of struggle in this book, and both of them aren't bad people. One of them isn't right and one of them isn't wrong. They're just different people. And it's seeing their relationship kind of crumble away and maybe rebuild itself. And, you know, because both of them have their problems. Muntadir's kind of a very fragile person. He can't handle criticism at all. He's very fragile, but isn't a bad person. Like, he's genuinely kind of kind. And then you have Alizad, who is entirely self-righteous, just entirely self-righteous, but completely blinded to any consequences to his actions. So they both have their own problems, and neither one is right or wrong in the argument. So that's what makes their, like, the relationship and the dynamics between them so compelling, is that neither one is right or wrong. So it's just like seeing interesting characters become more interesting and more multifaceted. And it's really hard to like describe other aspects of the story without giving away any more plot details that I've already given away. Well, one of them was a very mild spoiler, but I really enjoyed it. If you're into like juicy character work, I do recommend this because it's not really action-packed until the very end of the book, but it's still like this sweeping fantasy world with all the cool magical elements, and you get to meet a lot more characters, so you're expanding the world. By the way, you get to meet the Queen finally, Queen Hatset, and oh my gosh, what a boss bitch. I love the Queen Hatset so much. Sorry, that's an aside, but Queen Hatset was like making me live. I love her character. I want her to come back in the third book. So yes, do I recommend this? Yes. You have to read City of Brass first. Obviously, this is a series, not a standalone. And it's really, really good. The writing is so incredible. It's just excellent, excellent writing. It's lush, it's detailed, and multifaceted. So it's got a lot of things I really enjoy in storytelling. And I can't wait for the third book, which is coming out the end of June. I'm like all aflutter for it. I need it now. The last fantasy I read was Cursed by Thomas Wheeler and illustrated by Frank Miller. And I'm a little conflicted about this one, honestly. Like, I gave it 3 stars because, like, it's good. It's good. It's not great though. It's really not. And I was wondering how it was going to be because, you know, this is sold as a Netflix show. I think the show comes out in July, actually, so just right around the corner. The way the book is written, it feels very much like camera direction. Like, oh, camera pans right, you see a field of burning fire. It feels like you're looking at camera angles while you're reading the book, so it feels very scripty, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's very visual in some aspects. You can really like see like the primordial forest these people are in, and some of the like horrendous violence that's committed in this. You can picture it perfectly, and you would know exactly how the camera would pan if you were watching it on TV. So it's one of those. Frankly, I think this might be a better show than it is a book. I haven't even seen the show, and I think that, but I might be getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about what this is about for a hot second. So this is about Nimue, and if you are unfamiliar with the Arthurian legends, Nimue is the Lady of the Lake, the protector of the sword, and then, you know, the sword Excalibur that later on Arthur uses to become the Rontu King. So this is kind of a prequel to all of that. There's a lot of little cameos of characters that are in the Arthurian legends, like a lot of the Knights of the Round Table, you meet them in here. And they're just kind of throwaway lines, and you're like, oh, it's that person. And you get really excited. So it has a lot of Easter eggs if you know the Arthur story and the characters in it, like who are the Knights of the Round Table. If you know those names and then you pick them up in here, you'll be like, oh. So it does have those like excited moments. But we are following mainly Nimue. And I mean, I've already said Lady of the Lake, and we're starting out here where she's not the Lady of the Lake, so we kind of know where the story's going. It's not going to be like this happy ending where she's Queen of the Fae and she's happy and helping her people succeed. No, she's going to have a lady in a lake. Like, we kind of know where this story's going, so it has somewhat of a tragic ending. That's not even a spoiler. That's where the legend of Arthur starts, so it's like, it's not a spoiler, it's been established already. So I think they kind of just like spoiled some of the delight I may have had just knowing it's gonna end tragically, and I didn't feel like a lot of character development kind of happened. It's just, things just happened in it, and there weren't a lot of like real reasons why people's thought processes changed. Like, Nimue starts off very naive and kind of cocksure all the time, and then she kind of turns into like a leader of men, and there's no like crisis of faith involved here. She's not ever wondering, am I worthy to rule these people? She just kind of steps up to the plate with no character development in between, so you're just like, don't get me wrong, I like Nimue. She's dope. I like the world building around here. Basically, you have the church who just wants to burn people, which isn't necessarily all that historically inaccurate. Like, let's be real. I don't know, I just kind of felt like these were caricatures of people, and I feel like an actor doing it on screen, I would get more emotional development out of than reading it in the book, because it wasn't put in the book. I feel like a lot of that would be left to the actor to bring the emotion to. So it feels like a script. And that's not necessarily bad, but it's not necessarily great either, because they're two different mediums, and this one isn't working as well as it could if it wasn't trying to be a script. So, I don't know. Like, it has good things and bad things, and there's some really dramatic scenes that I could see playing out that would be really cool to watch, but not as fun to read. So, I don't know. I feel like a lot of things just weren't developed and could have been done better. But the things this book does well, it does particularly well. Like, it has a lot of really vivid imagery in it. The world was really cool. I could picture everything perfectly. That's all great, but it does need some work, which kind of sucks, because it's like they put a lot of production value into this. Like, this is a thick cover on this. Frank Miller illustrated it. Honestly, I didn't see what the illustrations added to the story. If anything, they're just kind of there as like a selling point. They didn't add much, so I'm not sure why he illustrated this, but anyway. Moving on. 3 stars. It's not terrible, but like it has a lot of room to improve. Next category is sci-fi, and I read one of them. I finished off this series. I read Imagine Me by Tahereh Mafi. And as the finale book of the series, I was really hoping for a lot. And I really didn't get it. Oh gosh. Okay, let's explain. I think I gave it like a low 3 stars. Like it wasn't a solid 3 stars. Like it's a 3 stars because I'm feeling generous. Like this is the big finale of 6 books. And they just, like, honestly, if you've read book 5, like, it's almost the same exact plot again. They just wrote the book 5 again. It's the same plot. For real. For real, it's the same plot. And I was like, why am I getting deja vu? Oh, it's because the exact same thing already happened in the last book and we're doing it again. Why? And just like nothing happened that hadn't already happened before in previous books. It was just like a recycle of a lot of different things that were happening, and it just made it feel cringy for multiple reasons. It's gonna be hard to describe the cringe factor here without spoilers, but ooh, there's some cringy stuff in here. Oh, like I had a whole body cringe at one point. You know what, I'm just gonna give a slight spoiler, and if you've read any of the series, especially the second half of the series, these are very slight spoilers because we've already seen these things happen already. Like I said, this is just rehashing things that have already happened in other books. But, so there's Juliet, our main character. She gets her mind erased by the bad guy. Mind you, the bad guy is her boyfriend's father. So she's hanging out with boyfriend's father, doesn't know who he is, but has like in the back of her mind, still in love with her boyfriend, and she keeps finding the dad really attractive. And it's just, oh, whole body cringe. Think about that. It's like she keeps finding her boyfriend's dad attractive. Oh, like, it's like, oh, no. No. Mind you, the bad guy in this, he's just a torture porn addict. He just likes torturing people. And the one scruple he has is that when she tells him that she finds him attractive, he's just like, oh, no, 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 no. So even the dad cringes. Even the dad who has no morals and likes to torture people for fun, even he thought it was gross that she thought he was attractive. So I was like, it's not just me. Even the bad guy cringed. So it's like, oh, sorry for the spoiler, but like, oh, that is a cringe. That is a hard cringe. Like I'm cringing thinking about it. But it's just a rehash of everything that's already happened in other books, especially the last book, which I did enjoy because it had a lot of action and world building, and then they just did the bad parts of that in this one again. So it was literally things we have already seen exactly done again for no reason, and then it's just over. And then you're just like, but why? Why did you do that? Like, the ending of this is kind of inevitable. You know what's gonna happen and why it needs to happen, and I was okay with that, and you have to have a reason why these characters get to that location to do it, but doing the exact same thing that happened in the last book as a plot device to get them to that location is frankly lazy. And oh gosh, like parts of it I did like, but overall I was just not impressed. Like I was very unimpressed. Like 3 stars because I'm generous. Like, ugh, I'm so disappointed. It's one of those series that you either love or you hate. The writing style is an acquired taste. Well, not an acquired taste. I just think it's very particular. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. If you're just talking about like technique and craft here, I do think the writing style is very good. It's always written in this very lyrical, almost poetry type fashion. So if you like that, I think the writing craft here did stay on par with the rest of the series. It is very lyrical and poetic sounding, and I do enjoy that aspect of it. It's just the plot itself was very bad, and I didn't enjoy it, and it was stupid. So Oh gosh. Okay, so yeah, it's over. The series is over. Last category is romance, and I read 2 of them. I read Fight or Flight by Samantha Young. Now, okay. This is just really hard to review, honestly. I gave it 3 stars because I don't know what else to give it. Because on the one hand, there were some things in here that I thought were done pretty well, and I did enjoy. I did finish it, I didn't DNF. But on the other hand, objectively speaking, this book is a fucking mess. It's a mess, you guys. It's real bad. Oh gosh. It's a real bad book that has some good writing in it, essentially. I'll explain. Let's start with the good. Let's start off on a good note here. I thought some of the characters' responses to things were actually very interestingly nuanced. In a lot of instances, a lot of high emotional drama things are happening, and when characters react emotionally to things, it's not always rational. And sometimes authors write emotional responses that make no fucking sense for the character and are only there to further the plot. And that is really bothersome. The one thing I think this book does particularly well is that when characters are having these emotional responses to these very dramatic things happening, they actually have a rational emotional response. The responses these characters are having to the situations that are in seem fitting for the character and grounded in reality. And they happen, and the plot still furthers itself without stupid drama. So for that alone, I thought it did it particularly well. That's what kept me reading the book, is that the characters felt true to themselves throughout the whole book. So hey, you know, credit where credit's due. That's very good writing. I was impressed with that. However, the plot and just things happening in here, and some of the things that are used for dramatic intent are just fucking a mess. Oh my gosh, it's a mess, you guys. It's gonna be hard to like say what the messes are without giving away too many plot points, but it's just like the craziest fucking shit you can think of. It's all happening now. The main couple here is Ava and Caleb. They meet at an airport and they're sitting next to each other on a plane. Of course, this is an enemies to lovers trope where they both just like are dicks to each other, particularly Caleb. Caleb is a piece of fucking work. Like, I would never date him. Like, my lady boner is immediately killed by his behavior. Like, I'm not fucking around with Caleb. No, like, he's gross. And then you have Ava, who I did kind of actually like as a human. So I was wondering what the deal was, because like I would have just thrown a coffee in this guy's face. He's such a piece of shit. And on the back right here, it's being marketed as contemporary romance. However, it is not a romance. I'm gonna go on a limb here and say this is women's fiction. No, you know what? No, fight me. This is women's fiction, okay? Like, you're not going to convince me otherwise, because the main emphasis of the book is not the romantic relationship. It's Ava's growth as a human and coming to terms with her past and moving forward and becoming the woman she wants to be. And a relationship is in there as well. So no, it's not a romance. It's women's fiction. Fight me. And then the events throughout the book that I won't get into because spoilers, but they are just full of histrionics. It's like the worst possible actions you can think of, just all happening. Like, you have cheating in it, you have domestic abuse in it, you have like crazy exes, like a whole new level of crazy ex. Like it's bananas how crazy of an ex this is. And just like all kinds of craziness all happening all the time. And it's just a whirlwind of shit nonstop. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, one crazy thing to focus on throughout the book would be one thing, but throwing in all of them and you're just like, what the fuck? And frankly, there's so much crazy shit going on all the time that it's really hard to focus on one thing and actually develop it. So you just have crazy shit after crazy shit after crazy shit and no development or really any like resolutions to some things. It just kind of happens and you're just like, why the fuck did that happen? Frankly, it's a hot mess of a plot. but I did like Ava as a character. So I gave it 3 stars. Like, it's a generous 3 because it's a hot mess, but I did like the main character. So, I don't know. Give it a whirl. You might like it too, but just go in knowing, wow, this is going to be a hot mess. The last book I read was The Highlanders Promised by Lynsay Sands. Yes, technically this was in my June TBR list, but I read it early, so I'm reviewing it now. This is Ollie, who is the eldest Buchanan brother, who I've always been a bit into because he's broody. He was in war and he has this big face scar, so he feels like, I'm a monster, I'm gonna brood, no one will ever want me. One of those guys. And then you have Jeddah, who he finds in the ocean with amnesia, and you're like, oh my gosh, the tropes. So I was really excited for this one. Like I was saying with Fight or Flight, I liked the book. However, I would be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge that it's a hot mess. It's a hot mess of a book. Did I like it? Yeah, it was fun. It was book candy. I enjoy the writing style, but oh man, was this a mess. It's not the best work of this series. It's a mess. Like, frankly, I'm astounded Ollie made it to adulthood. He is adult. Like, he's so stupid. One of the dumbest motherfuckers I've ever read. He's so dumb. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna start off with the good stuff first. Let's start off on a high note here. So, good parts. The humor is there. I do love the comedy, the relationships between the brothers. I enjoyed all of that. I love the amnesia trope just because it's so, like, campy. I like that. I did like Ollie, even though he's stupid, he is very broody, and I liked him in general. I liked Jeddah. So there's a lot of things I just liked about it because I like the writing. The writing is fun to read. It's just book candy. So there's all that. And where it gets into hot mess territory is like, ooh, some of this stuff is problematic if you think about it too long. Let's get into that. So like I said, Jeddah has amnesia. And Rory, one of the brothers in here, he's a doctor, and he's helping take care of her because she has a massive head injury, you know? And she wakes up, and Ollie's in her room, like sleeping in a chair, taking care of her, and she's like, oh, you must be my husband, because otherwise you wouldn't be in the room with me. You know, this is the 1700s. Dudes weren't allowed to with women alone in bedrooms. So she's like, oh, you must be my husband. And he's like, and then Rory's like, yes! He's your husband. And then Rory keeps saying, you need to tell her this lie. Tell her that you're her husband so she feels calm and loved and like she's with her family so she doesn't get like confused more with her amnesia and feel like she's in danger. You need to make her feel comfortable. And while that's like a good idea in theory, lying to someone, saying you're her husband when she wants to get frisky with you, and then you engage in some of the frisky behaviors, like that is very problematic content. If you think about it, he's lied to her and she thinks that's her husband, and that's why she's willing to be doing these sexual acts with him. And they engage in sexual acts and under completely false pretenses, which, wow, that is problematic. That piece of problematic content is enough right there to say hot mess express coming into the station. I won't go into any more issues because I'm getting spoilery, but ooh, that is a problem. Did I still like it? Yeah, like I feel bad about myself that I still liked it because it was fun book candy to read, but there's a lot of problematic content here that is definitely problematic and you should acknowledge being problematic, but it's book candy, and I mean, everything kind of turned out okay in the end. Yeah, I don't know, yeah, whatever. I kind of liked it because it's book candy, but like, ooh, it has some problems. Okay, so those are all of the books I read in the second half of May. Like I said, a lot of them were kind of iffy, but I finished all of them. None of them were bad enough that I wanted to DNF, so there's that. Let me know in the comments down below, have you read any of these books, and if so, did you like them, did you dislike them? Or hey, have you read a romance that you're just like, wow, this is problematic, but I also kind of like it? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like, and if you want to see more videos, make sure you subscribe. And I'll see you guys soon. Bye!